Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Cosmic Culture, the channel where we talk about all major movie and television news, theories, breakdowns, and more. I'm Chris, and today we're talking about Black Widow, which within its first 24 hours of releasing has almost hit 15 million in the box office. MCU movies are back, and the excitement of that is definitely resonating through the fan base. As I've seen on Twitter or in my Discord, on my YouTube comments page, people have been enjoying this movie. The general population of you guys seem to have liked the idea, liked what they produced, liked what you saw on screen, and although there definitely are a few points that some people aren't too happy about, overall it's exciting to have the MCU back and for it to be an awesome tribute to Black Widow and even set up some future for this side of the character's fan base. This is not a spoiler-free review, so if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want to hear anything crazy that you weren't expecting, like who's Taskmaster, what's the post-end credit scene, where does this lead into the future of the MCU, those are some of the points I'll be hitting in this video, so go ahead and click away, come back later when you've seen it, and just let me know what you thought in the comment section down below. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel, guys. We're talking about all major movie and television news across all sorts of genres, TV series, streaming platforms. So if you don't want to miss any of that, turn on the notification bell. And if you did see Black Widow, just go ahead and let me know now. What'd you think? Where would you rate it out of 10? And are you excited for the future that this movie has left for us? And we'll get to that in just a second when we cover the post-credit scene as well. Starting off, this movie covers a very cool, different way of entering it that I wasn't anticipating. It started off really different. We see young Nat and Yelena with the Red Guardian, and they're a family. They're not a biological family, but they're living in the United States. It was really cool. Then you realize they're sleeper agents for Russia, and they were looking for the secret program that Melania would later use to brainwash the widows and have Dreykov able to even make them kill themselves, which is really dark. But it was cool to see that beginning, to see Nat have such a close connection to her younger sister and the parents. It was just well done, really, really well done. And all of the cast, these main four core and others throughout the entire film, did a really, really good job of bringing this movie to life. So very enjoyable to watch that aspect of it, as it always is with Marvel, and that's not really a surprise. It was an interesting concept to watch a Black Widow movie after she's died. You know, it was a weird way to have done that. However, this movie has a special feel to it because you know where Black Widow ends up. She's going to sacrifice herself in Endgame. It's going to come to an end. We're finally getting information about a character, much like everybody else in Phase 4 up to this point, who had been sidelined by other events and other big, more important characters. You talk about Scarlet Witch, Falcon, Winter Soldier, Bucky, you talk about Loki, you talk about Black Widow. All these characters never really had their own movie, their own story told. Now we're diving back into these characters as we move forward into Phase 4. We're trying to reorganize the team, reorganize the direction of the franchise, and we're learning about Black Widow and her past. We're learning about Falcon and Louisiana. We're learning about Scarlet Witch and her powers and her childhood. And we're learning every detail about Loki there is to learn, exactly what makes a Loki tick, and so much about his personality that I'm really excited to see that. And it's more of that with Black Widow as we see her past life and a story that we never really got because we were too busy fighting Ultron or we were too busy in Civil War. Then Endgame happened and now she's gone. So it was really awesome for Kevin Feige and Marvel and Disney to give us this prequel that would show us what happened before everything else that led to her huge sacrifice. And Kevin Feige in the conference meeting for Black Widow definitely said they're open to doing more prequels. So we'll have to wait and see if we get more for other characters moving forward in the MCU. And as we move backwards to tell that story, it will project us forward just like it did in Black Widow. So I did enjoy that whole storyline idea behind it. The MCU has a lot of unique elements to it because Black Widow isn't just a movie for Black Widow. It's a movie in the MCU that has an insane fan base, a very meticulous fan base, and every movie or show now that comes out has some effect on the big picture. So you know we're diving into it and we're looking for it. And Black Widow did a very good job of balancing, hey, this is about Natasha, her family, her story, but also, hey, here's enough information for you to get excited and to see what this could connect to moving forward into the future. And again, I'm sorry, that's post-credit scene, we'll get to that. I want to talk about Red Guardian, who I would love to get a prequel movie for, David Arbor, of course, fantastic actor, stole the spotlight every single time he was on screen, cracked me up, but had some serious, really cool moments as well. Very capable, but also very out of shape. Set up some really cool ideas for movies I'd like to see. Maybe the Cold War, Captain America, Red Guardian era would be a lot of fun. And so many other different ideas that with Red Guardian you could get to, including the Ursa Major Easter egg that was in the film. They didn't direct to him specifically as, hey, here's a mutant, but it was Ursa, and they were having an arm wrestle, and Red Guardian beat him, broke his arm, and it was all crazy to see in very exciting moments. So they are starting to really sprinkle these things in there, even more obviously and heavily than they ever have. It's not really subtle hints anymore. It's something like, hey, in the comic books, this character is a mutant. Now, we didn't say that in the MCU is necessarily true, but they're there. So that's also super, super exciting. There was another aspect, and right now I'm talking pretty much all positives about Black Widow that I really liked, and there were mysteries and unknown plot points in the film. And this is a film that had been delayed 1.5 years, that has had 1 million trailers go out for it, that has had people deep diving into it. We thought we knew everything, but going in and watching the movie, I didn't know who Taskmaster was. I thought I did, and that was a huge surprise that they did a really cool job. If you don't know, the identity of Taskmaster was actually Dreykov's daughter, who Black Widow thought she had killed earlier, a long time ago, in order to take down the Red Room. Now, during this entire scene, which they do show us, Dreykov and his daughter both managed to escape alive. The Red Room was very much intact, and by putting different types of robotics into his daughter, he was able to keep her alive, and he also used the same brainwashing mechanisms that he used on the Widows in order to pretty much make her do whatever he wants. Now, the character is super cool and extremely capable. The first interaction that they have with Black Widow completely destroys Black Widow. She has to escape for her life, and Taskmaster doesn't follow her. Then she escapes to go find her sister. But the character is super cool. Very underused. We didn't see a lot of it. And now that we've kind of figured out who it is, all of that happened, Taskmaster hasn't come to an end, but the excitement of the mask is over. So that whole element wasn't wasted, it was just underwhelming. It was exciting to find out who she was, the storyline, the plot behind that, the desire for vengeance on Black Widow, since obviously her father had told her everything that happened, and she specifically was very negative feelings towards Nat for what she did to her and her father. All of that ended in this movie when Taskmaster was freed from her mind trance, the same way they were trying to free the Widows, which they also ended up freeing all of them and taking down the Red Room, finally actually killing Dreykov. And now Taskmaster and Yelena were actually off together, because Black Widow goes off her separate way at the end. Yelena and Taskmaster are together, and that's really cool to see. Now that we have this world army of Widows hiding around the world, and several of them who no longer have their mind control or anything like that going on, the question remains, what is the future for the Widows? Are they going to disappear into the MCU, or some of them going to be used, or is there going to be a Black Widow movie where we see all of these Widows trying to right the wrongs that they created? A lot of options there, and super exciting. I can't wait to see what happens with all of that, because there's no arguing the Black Widows are very, very capable agents who do a really awesome job in a very exciting way. But that is bringing us to the end of the movie, which ultimately is Black Widow going off her own way. She gets a Quinjet, she takes off, we know what really happens from here. She pairs back up, Infinity War, End War, Sacrifice, Endgame for Nat, and it's super sad. But this character has existed in the MCU for a long time, and she left it in very capable hands. Yelena was loved on screen. I haven't heard a single bad thing about her. Potentially picking up the role of Black Widow, moving forward. Really good, sarcastic presence, very fun character to see. She talks about different aspects of being free and how she could pick her own clothes, and it's all very enjoyable. And then we move into the post-credit scene, which is a funeral of sorts for Nat. She is buried out somewhere under a tree. I don't know if it's a certainty or not, but her parents were revealed to have been buried under a tree in this movie, and it's possible that she was buried near her parents, or it was just something similar to that, just for the feeling of it. But she doesn't have a whole funeral in the sense that Yelena goes to visit her gravestone. We don't see the Iron Man-esque huge everybody show up to my house and have a funeral. We just see Yelena going to visit the gravestone. She's there. It's a huge moment. It's cool. It's kind of the official passing of the torch, I suppose. And we'll have to see how Yelena responds in the MCU moving forward. But we know she's going to respond moving forward because while she's at the gravestone of her sister who died to save the universe, Valentina shows up. That's right, Valentina from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, who approached U.S. Agent and at the end was with U.S. Agent recruiting him for her secret team. She seems to have already spoken with Yelena as she talks to her specifically about her new task. So this connection has already been made and they're already in cahoots about what's moving forward with this team. But she shows her a picture of Hawkeye, asking her if she wants to get the guy that killed her sister. So this is interesting. Hawkeye was there when she died. We all know that he didn't kill her, but nobody in the MCU really knows that, except for the main Avengers who believe and know exactly the relationship they had. Yelena doesn't know who Hawkeye is or his relevance or what his involvement is. So it's important because now we're connecting to the Hawkeye series. It is an assumption that Yelena will end up showing up in the Hawkeye series at some point, whether it's a small role in a post-credit scene or whether Valentina is going to go and collect somebody else from Hawkeye's world. Whoever's going to be involved in that, it's going to be super cool to see. But now we're connecting these dots. We have U.S. Agent, we have Yelena, potentially Taskmaster, all of these different characters. And then you go to the raft and there sits a ton of different characters for them to collect or use. This could be a Thunderbolts team that they're putting together, a Dark Avengers team they're putting together, or a completely different team we've never heard of before that they're putting together. And all of that does make me very excited. I liked the post-credit scene. There was only the one. It wasn't very long, but it was super cool to see. So overall, I give this movie a pretty high mark. It was originally by me and many others, I suppose, compared to the Winter Soldier Captain America movie. It has the same feel, it has the same emotion to it. It's not an endgame level movie, but it was never meant to be. It's a storyline for a character who everybody loved, who never really got her storyline, and they did a great job of telling it. Not the perfect MCU movie by any means, but overall, MCU movies are back. And I couldn't think of a better movie to kick off MCU movies making it back to the theaters than this Black Widow movie. What a fantastic character. What an awesome character she's been throughout the MCU. And a really, really cool farewell for her in the post-credit scene and just overall in the movie. We'll have to wait to see if we get more prequel movies overall, like Kevin Feige hinted at just a little bit, and who they'd even be for, potentially Hawkeye, or many other characters whose story yet to have been told on the big screen in the MCU. Let me know your thoughts of the movie, guys. Overall, I'll probably put it at a 7 out of 10. Not perfect, but by no means is it not enjoyable. Does it not set up a cool MCU future? And it definitely has the awesome Marvel vibe that everybody loves and that is just sweeping the world right now in excitement. Coming up is the Loki finale, hopefully with some really, really cool reveals for the future and what we can expect moving down the line in the MCU Phase 4 where we're at. We're at a pretty crazy cliffhanger right now, so I can't wait to see where that holds out, and maybe we'll be able to even connect a little bit more dots for the big picture MCU storyline. Thank you guys so much for watching my review. Again, don't forget to let me know what you thought about the movie in the comment section down below, and I'll see you in the next one right here on Cosmic Culture.